Is it still on the way, or?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ahmed Hassan, and I'm here today to present to you my senior project, which was about a tool I developed to mainly manage the garage at UDC, as well as simplify the process of purchasing parking passes for both students and staff. So one part to being a software engineer is to identify problems and create potential solutions for them. By doing so, we can simplify day-to-day tasks and innovate the way we do things. A problem I found was after witnessing and experiencing the process of purchasing a parking pass at UDC seemed complex and outdated, as it requires a few steps, as well as having to visit multiple buildings, as well as filling out handwritten forms. So after I looked back at these steps last semester, I proposed to develop a tool to act as an asset in simplifying and innovating this complex process, not only for students, but also for staff. So rather than having to go to cashier's office, fill out handwritten forms, make in-person payments, as well as visiting other buildings to obtain overnight parking pass, and to also get your ID validated, this tool, this comparison here shows you what the disadvantage of the current process we're using at UDC versus the tool I developed. So some of the disadvantage being that it requires human presence. So a staff would have to be available during office hours to actually assist students throughout the day. So it's also limited to office hours. You could only go certain times of the day. It's time consuming for students, like I mentioned, requires multiple visits. And it also requires filling handwritten forms, as well as in-person payments. So the advantages of the tool I developed, it's an all-in-one automated solution for both staff and students. It's 24/7 accessible. It's electronic. You won't have to deal with any handwritten forms. So, which makes it paperless as well as contactless. So as I mentioned before, Garage K9 is a self-service web application which simplifies the process of purchasing parking passes at UDC while assisting school officials in monitoring the garage in an effective digital way. This tool is an asset to school officials in managing parking spaces at the garage. Hence, it will be manageable when it gets to distinguishing between a student's car and those who are coming from the outside to use this parking. It will also assist in solving the issues of unknown vehicles that are parked overnight or spaces which they are not allowed to park in. School officials can quickly identify a student's vehicle, send alerts in case of emergencies as needed. This is done by searching into a database using the vehicle's license plate number, then the vehicle's information as well as its owner's contact information is provided upon the search. So this is the foundation and the tools utilized throughout developing this tool. So foundation was pretty much based off HTML, CSS, JavaScript. This is what I used for my front end as well as my back end, which is pretty much the foundation used to develop any web application. You'll usually at least need those three throughout your development. So some of the tools utilized here was Visual Studio Code, as well as a few extensions such as Live Server. I used Firebase for my pretty much all my for my backend solution, which is it gives you all the features in one place, such as real-time database. It gives you hosting, authentication. So that was really helpful to learn and use. I also learned about GitHub, which is a version control. software that helps you to revert back to previous versions in case you made changes and you have issues, or if you would just like to revert back to a previous version, it allows you to do that easily. So this is a timeline of how the development went throughout the school year. So I started the project mid-October. I just started with a basic HTML and CSS. I used the template of Bootstrap library and just started trying to get an idea of how this web application would look, like how the front end would look, what kind of features do I want to add. So once a month later or so, I finished the front end, and then that's when I started developing the back end. So I started thinking about where's the data going to be stored, uh, how will I write security rules, and which falls under authentication. And I started learning database. I found Firebase to be the solution and the way to go for me. So I stick with Firebase for that. Beginning of January, I had a working prototype, um, but it wasn't quite where I needed it to be. So I kept working throughout the school year this semester, learning more about JavaScript and databases. Um, some way towards the beginning of April, I had the backend completed as well as the hosting. So this is my diagram that I use by various leaps. It just gave me an idea of what kind of record do I want to collect from student, as well as what kind of information I'm collecting regarding the vehicle. It just shows me what is it that I want to do, such as adding record, updating, deleting record. Records are being shared among multiple campuses. So they have relation between the vendors, the main campus, as well as Union Station. And down here, the campus police is able to do functions such as warning, finding, contact, and looking up a vehicle. Um, Student could have multiple vehicles, could also update vehicles. So the structure and functions of my website. So there's two sides to it. One being the student login, the other is the admin login. So on student side, you see tabs such as purchase parking pass, report incident, contact. So under purchase parking pass, you do need to be authenticated. So you would have to go through the login process. You would be able to add student information as well as vehicle information. And then you go to the last step, which is checking out. You have two options. You could either get billed on your student account, or you could check out using PayPal or credit card. In terms of reporting incidents, you do not to be authenticated. To fill out this form, anyone could fill it out. You include incident date, subject, message, and you could also attach pictures if needed. So as well as contact, just basic contact form in case you have any issues with the portal and you would like any assistance, you could reach us through this form. In terms of the admin side, so the main thing you could do is add record, you could search for a record, and you could update a record, and you could delete it. So I have this set by a number. So the record you're adding is, it will be added using the student in number, and I have it restricted so that you would only be able to update the vehicle's information, not the student information. So the student information stays fixed, it's always the same. And in terms of looking up vehicle, you'd be looking up using the license plate. So this is to give you an overview of how the portal looks as you log in. This is what you see on the students end. On the left side navigation tab, you will see purchase Barking Bass, report incident, contact us. Those are all forms that students could fill out, and they're linked to my database. So whatever submission happens through these forms, they go to my database. And this is what you would see on the admin view as if you were to log in as an admin. On the right side navigation tab, you would see search, add, update, delete student record. While on the left navigation side, you will see looking up vehicle, which allows you to search for a vehicle using the license plate number. This is what I used for adding a record using Firebase. This is a snapshot of my JavaScript file. So the first one where it says insert record, this is the function I'm using to insert a record to my database using the following input fields below. And the database table is called student record. The plus ID variable is inserting the record based off student's N number in this case. The one right below it is what allows me to look up a vehicle using license plate number. So this is a for loop which allows me to loop through those through the database table called records, and it returns the value which is equal the plate variable, which returns the record I need based off the license plate number. And on the left side here, this is how it would look on Firebase. This is what I would see it on the Firebase side. So last but not least was the hosting. So I had to figure out a way to make this tool accessible via like mobile devices. So Firebase does actually offer hosting solution, which was the last step I've done after once the project was completed and reviewed. So the website is actually live now. It could be accessible via this hosting URL, and you could also now, getting a parking pass is just as simple as scanning a QR code, which would take you to the portal where you have to fill out the information. So I'll actually be going through a demo now. So this is what you would see as you log in. So report incident, contact us. They're outside the authentication, so you do not need to be authenticated. You could use those whenever. To log in here. So this is what I would see on the student side. First thing I would do is purchase a parking pass. So we're filling out the form using contact information. So it'll ask you which semester are you looking to purchase the parking pass for. It could either be fall or spring or academic year. I'll ask you if you require overnight parking pass. You could say yes or no. For vehicle information, you're just typing your car's make, model, as well as the color and the license plate number. The state. So you have two options in terms of checking out. You could either get billed on your student account by submitting this, or you could pay now. Whichever you click, it will still send those information to a database. So if you click bill me on student account, it would just say your parking pass purchase has been submitted successfully. So now I do have the record of this on my database. Or if you choose to pay now instead, it will direct you to checking out using PayPal. So you could do PayPal or you could do a debit and a credit card. Let's see. So reporting incident, you'll be selecting the incident date, the subject, um, and you just typing a message here, and you'll be attaching pictures. And you'll submit the incident. Form has been anonymously submitted, and we will look into this further. Thank you. Let's see. Go back to the home. Contact us. It's just a form. If you have any questions, if getting your parking badge, if you have any issues related to the portal, you could reach us using this here. It's just a basic contact form. Oh, I forgot the ID number. So it does use validation. So if you miss any fields, it would remind you. Leave. Let's submit. Okay, in terms of the admin login, you'll be authenticated through the admin portal. So you would use the admin login for that. So here we could do things such as adding a record, and we could look up a vehicle. So let's try to look up the vehicle I added earlier. So here I'm searching using a license plate number. So the license plate number I used was BF55. I'll go ahead and click search vehicle. As I click search vehicle, it would tell me which car I have associated with this account. So now I have the student's contact information, so I can easily contact and reach that student immediately if needed. So now let's go through my database to see what I have in here. So this is how I receive the submission forms. So this is for the incident report. This is for inquiries, which is the contact form we had submitted earlier. This is for the passes purchased. So you would get vehicles information as well as students N number. You could see whether student is allowed to park overnight or not. You could see which semester student had purchased the parking pass for. And this is just the record, all the records that were added. Just use the random name generator just to add random records here. And last but not least, here is the future enhancements and upcoming features. So I would like to be able to find a vehicle using their license plate number. Some of the reasons the vehicle could be fined could be such as parking in a handicap spot, parking in a reserve spot, as well as parking after the hours without the acquired permit. You could also write the reason by selecting other and manually typing what the reason is. I would like to have a send alerts option where you could send like a massive email for everyone who have purchased the parking passes or does use the UDC parking garage. Last feature would be a QR code. So as students purchase their parking pass, I would like for them to receive a confirmation email, which then contain a PDF attachment that would have a QR code where they could print out at their convenience and place it on their car's windshield. And that QR code would just be unique to them and designated to them throughout their time at UDC. So it would always be the same. So in conclusion, this web application can assist the school in becoming paperless when it gets to dealing with parking passes. For example, the passes you see on the left side here would no longer be needed. Instead, students will be provided with QR codes via email designated to them, which will be associated and linked to their N number throughout their time at UDC. This is a more effective way to distinguish between students that does use the garage or those who use the garage from using it as a public parking that does come from the outside. You could easily contact students in case of emergencies and find those who violate the garage rules. And this concludes my presentation. If anyone has any questions or recommendations.
I don't have a question or recommendation, but I would like to see this project like working at GDC because it's really nice. Like that will actually take a lot of the stress of going to another building.
Definitely agree. Thank you.
Great
Yeah,
presentation, I mean.
Thank you.
I really like your presentation. It's really good. The idea is good.
Thank you. Any further questions or feedback on what other features I could work on? All right. Thank you, everyone.